Welcome back to Central Coast Disc Golf. This is the final round from the 2023 Discrafts Cascade Challenge up here in Shelton, Washington. I'm your host, Nate Perkins, and I'm here with my good friend, Connor O'Reilly, who busted out an 11 under during this final round. He's going to walk us through this course for you guys. Connor, how you doing, man?
Doing great. It felt good to finally just slow my feet down and let my game do the talking today. And here's a look at that leaderboard as we position ourselves for the final round. The lead card consists of James Conrad in the lead by 2, Ricky Wysocki and Evan Scott, the ones that are only 2 back. Eric Oakley rounds it out. Going to be a good mix of styles out here, and I'm excited to see them attack this technical, gap-heavy course.
Hole 1, shortest par 3 on the course. 270 feet. It's a little more technical than it looks on paper. You can throw a pure hyzer, but you're kind of asking to get lucky through this cluster of trees. The preferred shot is kind of a one that rides straight for 250, stalls out, and then starts to fade late into the flight.
2023 Cascade Challenge from Blacksburg, Virginia, James Conrad.
James, of course, shot the course record 14 under par during round 1. And he was actually putting for a 5-stroke lead at the end of round 2, ends up 4-putting. So he's coming into this round with just a 2-stroke lead over Ricky and Evan Scott.
This is inside, but gets lucky, filters through, and hits the tree right inside the bullseye for the park job. If James gets some breaks like that, he's going to be tough to catch today.
And next up from Scottsdale, Arizona, Ricky Wysocki.
We got 2-time Ricky Wysocki. Good to see him back playing disc golf, doing what he does best.
Do you know what this deep, stable putter is that he's throwing?
I feel like that could be either a dagger or maybe some kind of baseline harp. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I think maybe dagger, actually.
Next up from Duncan, South Carolina, Evan Scott.
Go, Evan!
Most of you guys are probably familiar with Evan by this point, but if you're not, amazing gap hitter and one of the best putters in our game, honestly.
Really takes a severe angle into the front of the pad from nearly off the pad back to the
from
middle.
Pensacola, Florida, Eric Oakley.
Eric, well known for his unique delivery and charismatic character. Always a fun guy on the course. Is that a popcorn there?
Yeah, I think so. Class disc popcorn.
How does that one fly?
Yeah, really nice neutral flying putter. A little bit of late stability. It's a point and shoot kind of disc.
Yeah, I think you'll either see players play flat on something overstable here or just a little bit of hyzer out of the hand on something neutral. A little wobbly for Evan, but makes good there from circle's edge to start his round. This elevated basket adds just that little layer of difficulty, so feels good to hit this one.
And Ricky fires that comeback home. James going to go ahead and tap this in after a really nice envy shot that got a little lucky near the end of the flight.
Yeah, it's one of those courses, you can hit your gap and throw your shape over and over, but here and there you need 1 or 2 instances of good fortune in order to put down one of them hot rounds. And hole 2, another tight gap off the tee, mandatory, keeping us to the right here, mainly just to protect the players on hole 1, more so than there really being any options over there. Really steep hyzer out of the hand for all these right-hand, backhand players. Looking to get the disc to the ground somewhere before circle 1's edge if they really want to put it close. Very common collection zone off to the long right side here with as far left as you have to move the disc. And we saw near perfect conditions for disc golf today, you guys. If you're really just getting touchy, you can maybe ask for 3 more degrees so you're just a little warmer in the muscles and then the hands, but honestly, it was amazing out there.
And James going envy here and just didn't quite get this zip on it. Kind of stalls out a little early.
Yeah, being a more neutral disc, hard to get this one all the way left unless he really sets that 45 degrees of hyzer or so. Evan tugs it a bit wide on the gap, catches a bit of the stuff. Just looking for par from there. And did Ricky just spray it through the inside gap and skip over?
Did Connor.
Wow.
Everyone needs a little love out here at Shelton Springs at some point.
James starts off with the love on hole 1. Ricky gets it on hole 2.
And Eric kind of tugs on that one.
Very late release out of Mr. Oakley. Looks like a well-measured approach, though.
Yeah, really nice. Kind of blind right there. Forced to go nose up.
Evan's lining this up like he wants it, and who am I to tell him no? He's pretty lethal inside of 100, sometimes even up to 120 feet. A little half-hearted for Conrad.
And a little low for Rick, and that one just kind of climbs in there. Sometimes those Chain Start pros don't really accept those low right putts.
Yeah, I scooped that one in there. Had just enough nose down, I think, to where it didn't have a chance to leave out of the chains. I think you see some of those flat right side putts from the more nose neutral putters. Definitely have trouble on these baskets. Big misfire for Oakley off the tee, but recovers very well. And Evan's going to be putting with the Discraft Roach all day.
Yeah, really good looking stroke. Definitely no jitters right there, even on that 15-foot putt.
Yeah, I think it matters even on those short ones really to fire a strong stroke in there and get yourself ready for the rest of the round when you have some longer ones.
All right, hole 3. Honestly, one of the harder holes on the course. Definitely the longest hole out here at Shelton. Really asking the players to open up here. If there's any wind at all, it's a slight tailwind left to right here as it's been all weekend. Ideally, you'd get something out into the 450 to 550 range. I think a 500-foot shot lands right about here, and then this bush is up here in the 550 neighborhood. Problem with the hole isn't necessarily the distance, it's how tight this gap is. A little bit of a low ceiling as you approach the green here, and just so many trees in the way. It's one prescribed kind of pushing hyzer into the woods.
Yeah, unless you really perfect this drive, I feel like you're pretty happy to have some kind of look inside circle 2. Ricky gets a lot of distance, but doesn't really move himself that close to the pin.
James kind of flattens that photon out just a little bit. Really don't want to be in the rough there. This is that blooming Scotch broom, kind of an invasive weed that they said blooms just for a couple weeks out of the year, Connor.
Yeah, much to my chagrin, it's definitely been wrecking my throat a bit. They're super dry, like thin pollen, so. And it'll definitely test the footwork of these players as they have to navigate it when you're on the edge.
Looks like there must be a little bit of a tail left to right out there, kind of pushing those discs over as they get on Annie. Yeah, Eric forced to go to a forehand here. This plant kind of acts as a kind of a natural hazard, doesn't it?
Absolutely does. Yeah, it probably adds at least some fraction of a stroke of difficulty finding yourself inside of it. Yeah, you hear Eric talk about a couple of foot in any direction, and he's probably just fine to get something off there. Ricky, known for being a madman when he has to scramble, willing to romp through the rough. And
yeah, he's trying to turn that Explorer up through the gap, and it just doesn't. Fades out early. And James going to go standstill photon here.
Wow, you almost never see James go to a standstill. He pretty much always prefers a short run up, even on those choked up like 100-foot shots. So
yeah, must be pretty tight down there in the feet.
Showing some amazing skill though to go to a shot he probably hasn't thrown in months and executing it extremely well.
A decent shape from Evan. He just needed a touch more Anheuser angle on it if he wanted to ride up into the circle.
Yeah, maybe a straighter disc. I feel like hard to ask for a big shape there. Really just looking for something nice and straight. Evan does kind of like to drag over the top of the disc as his stock shot though. Ricky definitely trying to give that one an effort and just not quite enough height. James does the same, just not quite enough Anheuser angle for him.
Yeah, pretty obstructed look there for Evan. Oh, and Eric's good. His third kind of nervy par putt. That one from just outside the circle.
Yeah, Eric has been having his strongest season in a long time, and it's good to see it. He's really worked on his body a whole bunch. Lost like 25 plus pounds this off season, and he's looking great and playing good too.
And did you see that him and James Proctor went over to Sweden last week?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
They went 1-2 in Sweden, and then they came back for this event. They just skipped one weekend. Like,
those guys are making it happen, and really cool to see them go over there, play some really hot golf, and go get to interact with some of those fans over there. One last look at that leaderboard.
Tight field. We got 10 players within 5 strokes right here.
Hole 4 brings us back into those woods. This one's going to move from the left to the right, and it's going to be the first hole to challenge you in this way. At 330 feet, it's not too long. If you're going backhand, the mid-range or maybe the touchy fairway driver will be in play. Or if you're a player like Mr. Conrad, you're going to get on one of those putters and try to put it up there close. A lot of players are going to elect for the forehand here, whether you want to go fairway driver or kind of a softer distance driver. We saw this one get aced by Gavin Babcock earlier in the week, so definitely a hole these players are looking to score on.
Ricky going orbit felon here. He's been throwing this one great this weekend. That stables out just a bit early, but that's in the circle.
Yeah, it feels like the early miss, if you do happen to get fortunate and not hit anything, is definitely the better of the two.
And James going envy here. This is a high level shape.
Just look at him getting his full body into that shot and bending the disc. Wow. So beautiful to watch. The momentum he puts in a shot at that range is just unlike many in the field.
And the understanding that he has of the disc stability with the speed he puts behind it, it's second to none, really.
Yeah, not many guys have the trust in slower plastic on those type of powerful shots. Oakley loves it. Oh, nearly skips it up and dunks it. I'm guessing that's his spice again, and he has been throwing some straight up dime highlights with that thing this weekend.
Connor, 3 throw-ins in 3 weekends, and he almost got an ace right there with it.
I'm so happy to hear that he's really grooving with his signature model and able to get that much use out of it.
Yeah, the Clash Discs Spice is like a little bit more stable than like your average Sexton Firebird. Definitely replaced my FD3s.
Eric giving props to James. Always a card mate who does a good job hyping up who he's playing with.
All right, moving into the 5th here. It's a par 4. Series of early gaps kind of make you feel a little crowded on the tee. Just 615 feet, so don't really have to bite off too much distance. Anything over 325 would be a good spot. Ideal landing zone is right here on this trail, but it's so hard to pick a spot that this is why we had to come up with a new term for this course, the rip it and reassess. This is one of the holes that falls under that category. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, this is one of those type of holes. You can go putter, and you'll see players throw driver, so a lot of variance off the tee depending on how aggressive you want to get. And unless you're in this one particular window on the straight left side of the fairway, you really got to get crafty to put it close.
James going a relay here. Disc he doesn't throw too often, but he definitely busts it out when there's tight wooded lines like this, and that is really well thrown, way up the fairway.
Yeah, gonna be very tight from there. Let's see what shot selection he chooses.
And I think Eric is going Dynasty here. 9-speed understable and really nice shape. That kicks left. Looks like he did check up just short of the road.
It's actually a pretty good place to be, depending on if he has a tree in his immediate line out of the hand.
Is he able to go kind of on the left side of the fairway if you're over there?
Yeah, there's a couple straighter, little bit of hyzer finish lines from that side, with not as many trees as the middle.
Were you ever in a spot, Connor, that you had to take it out over the road on your second? I saw a few players have to do that this weekend.
One time I thought about going over that bush bunker on the left, which is kind of edges on the fairway, on the out of bounds line over the road, but I fortunately didn't really have to test that. I was going fairway driver off the tee though, so I definitely could get into that spot.
And that was fantastic from Oakley. Did you see that like 3-foot gap that he just piped right in front of him?
Yeah, he shaped that hyzer, got skinny with the disc, and
wow.
Really hard to repeat that shot twice.
And then hits the fern right next to the bucket and just stops.
Ricky leans out, able to find that kind of main gap I was talking about on the left side. And yeah, he puts it up there very nicely. James having to go Anheuser over that bush bunker. Just so many trees in the middle, showing you guys how tough this hole really is. He threw very good drive and has to bend one just to edge a circle 1, sitting in circle 2.
off the band. Finds some cage. Slips in. What a putt.
Absolutely.
From deep in circle 2. Evan Scott.
One of those that you hear the sound and you kind of wait an extra second, like not knowing, oh, wait, did it go in? Yeah, let's go.
Oh, no. And James not completely dialed with the putt so far from distance, Connor. Wait,
Yeah.
are you picking up on anything that
I feel like
caused
his
those misfires?
pace has been a little slow. It feels like not quite as aggressive and straightforward as usual. Maybe just getting a little lofty, trying to kind of set it in versus attacking. It was right around the middle of the round we saw his putt really pick up yesterday, so hopefully he can get it going here soon. As we step up to the 6th. This one is a par 3 at 325 feet. Another mandatory, keeping us to the right here. Pretty steep highs are going to come out of most of these players. Looking to find yourself somewhere right of where this drone's going to fly through. And whether you can filter through that middle line and actually get into that park zone, or whether you play the kind of more clean line to the long right side of this basket. At the shorter distance of 325, this one kind of plays like a bonus.
Just as far as the actual birdie, just how rare it is to find yourself in the circle.
It just feels hard to repeat the line. A lot of times you have kind of a putt through a bush somewhere, and it finds a way of testing the players quite a bit. When you look back at it and you're up there, you can kind of see just how narrow some of the windows are.
I feel like we haven't seen too many people miss the Mando, but I definitely feel like that Mando is kind of like looming. It kind of makes this first gap feel pretty tense.
I think especially the way, in order to park this, I feel like you have to get the disc up in the air a little bit, and I feel like that all of a sudden makes the Mando feel more narrow to me, whereas if I want to drive the disc lower, the Mando doesn't really feel like it comes into play as much, but then it's hard to bring your disc back to the basket. We saw Ricky play that super sawed-off inside line. It looked like he was kind of going for that. Haven't really seen that yet. James feeling a little upset that he shortened his run-up. Maybe didn't ask someone to move their stuff, or we know he likes a lot of space on that run-up, and maybe a little bit crowded there, and he just thought he could throw through it.
Yeah, I do know that these benches are kind of right behind the tee pad, and several times throughout the weekend, James has kind of had to ask players to just like move out of the bench, and yeah, it's just unfortunate all around, really. And oh no,
here's part of what makes this hole tough is these bushes can really swallow you up, and you saw it there from James. He just got eaten by that thing.
oh,
And James looking
airball there from Rick.
Yeah, Ricky definitely let one go there. He was looking to slam that momentum putt in, and comes back with authority though. He understands that was a big opportunity to grab some momentum. He could have had potentially 3 strokes on James. 2 strokes.
James is going to bogey. Ricky
2
was
strokes.
putting for birdie, so
Yeah.
that would have tied up the lead. Evan Scott is going to tie James now for the lead. That happened quick, Connor. James starting off a little slow. Evan 3 down through the first 6.
Wow, Evan Scott showing off that putting prowess, putting together quite the tournament. It's funny because I've heard James in the past talk about every time he plays with Evan, Evan just has one of those amazing rounds, and
Really?
they played together round 1, and it seems like
Yeah.
that magic has continued for Evan.
Evan had the box on James for quite some time, actually, during James's course record round, because Evan got 9 in a row. And taking a look at that leaderboard there are more than 10 people within 5 strokes of the lead, Connor. And we yeah, it's pretty unpredictable out here. Hole 7, 400-foot par 3. First 100 feet of this hole is in the woods, and the way that it shapes up, it kind of forces you to throw a little anhyzer through the gap with something stable that rides out for a bit. The wind is back down. If there's any at all, there's a little bit of a right to left wind that does kind of push toward that out of bounds on the left that can come into play if you just throw all hyzer.
Come on, Venom.
I guess that was a Venom for Evan. As you heard Eric asking for it to come on. And Evan and Eric both just getting a little flat on it.
Wow, Eric just thrown a rope right there.
Yeah.
Didn't really move from left to right at all.
Thing had some speed on it.
Ricky pulling over on this felon.
Like sometimes when Ricky powers down, he almost throws like from the belly in a way. It's kind of a little different.
Really unique. He projects the disc a little different than anybody I've ever seen.
No doubt.
And James going panic here.
A lot of our top players, though, you know, we see a lot of guys move into a certain style of kind of simple, methodical, linear play, but there's still a lot of unique swings at the top. You look at Ricky, look at Calvin, James, like these guys aren't quite doing like what you'd call textbook, but they're just making it happen. They're just ultimate competitors.
Oh. Evan puts in another one from circle 2. And he's on a turkey. He's got the solo lead right now, Connor. What do you think of his putting?
It's so strong. And I don't know. He really uses all of that swing with his upper body, and his timing's really good. He kind of like forces anhyzer on the way down just to make sure he comes out flat, because I think he naturally comes out with a lot of hyzer. So it helps him flatten it out, I feel like, in his head. And yeah, he's just such a strong short game player. I feel like the first time I ever played with him was Beaver State, and he popped off a double-digit round. Didn't seem like he missed inside of 90.
Three birdies. James going to card the lone par, and just like that,
Evan
James
Scott,
is one back.
our leader. As we step up to the 8th, we've seen this play as the easiest hole all 3 days. Very attackable, par 4. A hole that's given up some eagles. Didn't give up any yesterday in the high wind, but did give up 2 of them day 1. Let's see if this lead card can nab us another highlight. Mandatory to the right as we enter this wooded gap, keeping you in check. There's an out-of-bounds bubble on the left out there in the open that honestly doesn't really come into play much unless you throw just a kind of abysmal drive. Narrows down with a couple big tree trunks into this green. If you're trying to play straight at it, you'll have a tight little gap.
Wind setting up great today to really attack this hole for the eagle. Evan going air shot, fades out a little early, just flies over the out of bounds. Eric really pulling over on this driver.
This looks a bit overturned,
I think he's throwing an Emperor there.
but they love it. Yeah, I do believe that it is an Emperor.
Pretty big drive.
Yeah, that was huge.
Navigates the Mando successfully. I think Ricky's going roller.
No,
Nope.
he's going Rive on the air shot. One of his seasoned Rives, and
Yep, that's into the wood line. Also makes the Mando. Okay, so yeah, James is going virus roller, Connor. This is super flippy. Gonna roll it down late in the flight.
okay, we didn't see James play roller here yesterday, so making an adjustment and paying off. Hits that 100-foot to the basket stake, and he's going to have a really easy up and down, maybe even a chance to try to drop a highlight in and grab some momentum back.
Evan in a tough spot over there. I feel like a par on the 8th. Almost feels like a bogey.
It truly does. This one feels like a birdie that they really are just giving to you as long as you don't miss the mandatory off the tee. Oh, Ricky
Gets
off
front
the cage from 100 feet.
Yeah, at least 100 feet.
Yeah,
huh?
because James is at the stake and he's up next. James also trying to run it, but gets just a little flat on it. Eric short, but friendly little roll.
All right, and after all of our competitors have had their chance, Connor, we got to give a few shout-outs for the few eagles that we had today.
6 of them to be exact.
6? Who were they?
Big numbers. Matty Bell, Eagle McMahon, Anthony Barella, Gannon Burr, Gavin Rathbun, and Broston Waugh, local kid out of, I believe, either Oregon or Washington. He can huck the disc for sure.
Yeah, we had the pleasure of watching both Eagle McMahon and it's slipping through. Eagle had it from Circle 1. Anthony Barella had it from Circle 1.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Sickening.
Oh, man, I wish I could have seen Eagle's roller, but we got to see the putt. Moving into the 9th here, 315 feet. Probably the tightest gap on the course, Connor, would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this gap here, maybe 6 feet across, and the gap is kind of staggered, too. Probably one of the more fulfilling gaps to just pipe. I think Eric is throwing a Pathfinder thought space.
Yeah, this gap just feels like the pinnacle of your timing. If you can hit this one over and over, you're dialed in. And Eric almost ringing this one up. Cruises long.
And then ramps off the log there.
Ricky going for the path less traveled with that forehand. Executes it well, though.
It's a big time shot right there. We've got a 3-way tie at the top.
Eric's only 1 stroke back as well. His whole card kind of hanging out together.
Look at this NV drifting late into the flight. Oh, and he catches the Circle 2 log right there.
Yeah, we see a number of those throughout the track, and this one can be pesky. It got me today. Thought I got it. Evan, that looked like he had the height to beat the log, but just drifts out of the gap. He's getting the ooze from the crowd because they understand his lethality from range at this point and are kind of expecting some highlights to drop.
Well, Eric almost had nothing from back in that bush. James still hasn't connected from distance. That one getting the top of the rim.
Yeah, James with some rare visible frustrations. And Ricky
going to take the lead, headed into the back 9. He shoots a 5 under on the front with 3 birdies to close it.
Watch out, world. The Raptor legs are running, and nobody's safe. No, also, nobody's safe on a track like this. Anything can happen, and who knows? Even that chase card can make a move right now. This has been the season of the chase card winner. And on a course like this, there's so much diversity.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying the golf here at Shelton Springs, and I've really been enjoying working with you this weekend, Connor, and I'm stoked on your final round that you laid down today.
You've been the marathon man this weekend, talking for up to 12, 15 hours a day. That's impressive stuff, too.
It's been a good week, man. I'm thankful for the job. And where can they find you over on Instagram, Connor?
You can find me at Connor O'Reilly 99648. And how about you, Nate?
Please give me a follow over at Perks of Disc Golf, and thank you guys for joining us here on Central Coast Disc Golf. We will see you soon for the final 9 holes of the Cascade Challenge.